It was like I was stripped of my identity. Sales is not what you see in the movies. How the fuck am I going to do this now?
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Sound of Sales. In this episode I'm talking to Yannick about why hard sales is over and how to go from SDR to account executive in a short year and a half. Enjoy this episode. A long time.
It has been quite a long time.
That we actually sat down and talked for an hour.
That's true. It's actually already been a few years if I'm thinking about it. It's crazy.
Yeah. Always when I go to your LinkedIn page, I see you work together at FoundMe.
Yes, indeed. That's already quite a few years back. It's amazing how time flies by. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Insane. Now we're going to talk all about that because that's what The Sound of Sales is all about. We're going to talk about how you are doing and how you grew into sales. And in one of the previous episodes, I was talking to someone and the person said to me, this was something about salespeople and their growth. And I was like, I have one person that I think of that I knew from the early beginning in his sales career and that is still going strong.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah, we met each other when I was doing my internship at FoundMe even. So that was actually my first touch with sales. True.
Yeah. I still remember that I said, if Yannick would sell me a car, I would buy it.
What made you say that at that point? Because to be honest, I was very early in my career. I actually didn't even start the career yet. So I'm wondering what made you say that. It's a compliment, so.
You're a natural. That's it. It comes natural to you, I would say. That's I can't describe it anything else.
Yeah, I don't know what constitutes natural, but anyway, I think it's part being genuine, also being a good listener. I think that's maybe an important point, but that's just how I see it.
Yeah, I think so as well. But before we jump into all these things, to the people that don't know who Yannick is, you don't have children yet.
No,
I think
no,
maybe things changed.
No, nothing changed in that part.
But how would your best friends describe what Yannick does for a living?
What I do for a living? I think my best friends would say it in a very simple way, and that's also how I would explain it. And that's that I sell software to the larger companies anywhere in the world. That's maybe very basic, a little bit too basic, but that's basically what I do. And besides that, I am also I was also involved in coaching some SDRs, helping them grow into their role, making them better at what they're doing. That's also something that they may say that I'm training some people, but that's just on the side. It's always some kind of side project.
Yeah. That's one of the things why we reconnected last year.
Mm-hmm.
Is Yannick has skills. I always think of you when I think about cold calling and that sort of stuff, because before you were at your current company, you called a lot, I would say. Can you walk us through your history in sales? How did you start, and what was your pathway looking like?
How did it look like? Actually, I started my sales career, just like I said before, at FoundMe when we were working together. That was my first touch with business development. That's also why I did my internship at FoundMe. And after that, I rolled into recruitment. I finished my studies then that year. You let me pass, so that was very nice of you. So I could kick off my career. And then I rolled into IT recruitment, and it was a 360 role, meaning that it was everything from sourcing the candidate, engaging with them, towards presenting them to clients, creating new clients. So there was a big part of sales involved. I really liked that. I liked working with people. It's a very personal job, of course, being a recruiter. Don't need to say that. And after that, while I was doing that in March 2020, the famous COVID came, and we were a
Hmm.
starting office under a very large corporation called Volt, international recruitment agency, and it was a little bit like, yeah, last in first out principle. We were just starting it up still, the office, the
Yeah.
Ghent office. So that story stopped there, and some takeaways that I had from being a recruiter, being that 360 recruiter, also involving a lot of sales, was that I was starting to see that I really wanted to go further into sales. So I'm very
Hmm.
happy that I was introduced almost by accident to sales by starting out as a recruiter. But I knew that my next professional step would be in full sales. Um, so yeah, I was at home, so I started applying. I was quite active on LinkedIn, something that I should pick up again, I think. But back in the day, I was quite active on it, writing articles and stuff. So I got quite some visibility in the network. And when I said I was open for a new job, sales oriented or still recruitment oriented, I also put that one in there because I really enjoyed it. People started reaching out to me, and that's how I ended up at Silverfin, which is a fintech company.
Hmm.
Great company, had a lot of possibilities there. My career has really taken off there, I can say, in sales, because that's where I really started to be an SDR, as is, the basic SDR
Yeah.
role there was the first time that I was doing all the time, doing calls, doing mails, trying to book meetings, basically. When I was a recruiter, it was
Yeah.
also sales, also doing calls, but it was a little bit different, of course, because that's not the core of being a recruiter. The sales aspect, it's important, but being SDR is all about, booking in things. So that's what I did over there. Like you said before, making a lot of calls. But I also enjoyed that. I enjoyed it more than doing emails because I like to have conversations with people more than writing it down. Can also put more nuance and more feel into conversation when you're having that, I feel. It's also easier to explain your value, to call it like that, or to have somebody agree to meet up with you if it makes sense. So
Yeah.
that's what I
Some
spent.
people, sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
I
some
keep on
people say
going, so
cold calling is.
sometimes you just have to stop me. Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. Some people are preaching, like, are really putting their point out there that cold calling is dead, and that people should stop doing it. I hear from you that you are not agreeing with that. You had very good results.
Mhm.
Um, why would you say, like, or what would you say are the main things that people are missing from cold calling and then jump into the conclusion that it's dead?
Because I think that cold calling is done very often in the wrong way. I think, and that's what I said before, when you're calling, it's about having the opportunity to engage into conversation. But a lot of people do cold calling just to bring their pitch. But a pitch you can do via an email. That's where the big difference lies. If I would say, "Hi, Bram, I know that you didn't expect my call today, but I was just wondering, do you have 2 minutes? This is why I'm calling. And if not, you can just hang up." Then you can start to engage into conversation, saying, for example, listen, what we see here in the market is X, Y, Z. Are there also these points that are on your radar? Are these priorities for you? Yes, no. And then you start to have a conversation. It's not a pitch, not saying this is what we do and we can help you, because you simply don't know it yet. And I think that having a good way of doing cold calls is still a very, very good way to actually book some results. Also, in the follow up, that's something else. But engaging into conversation, I'm still a very big believer in this if it's done in the right way.
Yeah. And would you recommend it to any type of business? Do you see differences with the company you're currently at versus the previous one?
Mm, it's a good question. I think if, especially you're in the B2B industry and SaaS, because the company that I worked at previously, Silverfin, and the company I'm working at now, Investify, they're both in the SaaS industry, B2B. Um, I think cold calling can apply for any SaaS product, to be honest. If it's about technology, To be honest, I didn't really think about if it could also help in other industries, also because I'm not really that familiar with it. But I strongly believe, at least in the industry where I work in, that it's first really applicable for any type of SaaS solution that you would sell.
Yeah.
It's all about, having a conversation. That's where it starts. It's not about pitching the
Yeah.
product. It's just, yeah, looking what stops somebody from being successful. Let's call it like that. And that
Yeah.
way, if you have that information, you can see, all right, this can be a fit or not, and then take it away from there.
Yeah, and if you're coaching people, do you notice that that is also like the mistake they are making, like jumping straight into the product pitch instead of really listening to
Yeah,
what keeps you awake at night, basically?
yeah, that's something that comes back quite frequently indeed, that they jump too quickly into the pitch. Sometimes the prospect will also ask on the phone, for example, what do you guys do? And then it's very, very easy to fall into that trap saying, okay, the prospect asked me, so now I
Yeah,
can say it. Still, then I would not say what we do as a product or what we exactly offer. I would say, listen, just to make sure that it's relevant, that I give you some explanation. Let me just first maybe ask what's keeping you up at night, and then again, what we see in the industry is X, Y, Z. Is this also something that you're feeling? And then it's again, you're turning it back to the conversation, and you keep the pitch as far away as
yep,
possible. Yeah,
yep.
it's a hard one
Yeah,
to keep
indeed,
people from doing
indeed.
that. Me myself, it's the same. To be honest, it's something that comes quite natural, wanting to say what you think, what you want to sell, but it's first listening. That's quite important. That's really important, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you as a very driven and enthusiastic person. Like
Thank you.
you take every opportunity that comes your way, I would say as well. Um, if you're coaching people and you notice that the person is a little bit on the shy end of things, like not very, yeah, you know what I mean. Um,
Not opening up that easily, you
is
mean?
cold, yeah,
Hmm.
is cold calling then something that you would think like, yeah, this could work for this person, or would you say like they need a little bit more training so they get more familiarized with the product, or like how would you tackle that even? Like, yeah,
It's not easy. If
it's quite a
someone,
challenge.
yeah, maybe I will take a step back on that question, and I would say that it would not be a good idea to hire an SDR um, and well, that's shy. I would say that. I
Yeah,
don't think that's a good idea because the SDR job itself, you have to reach out. That's just the core of the job. And if you feel that it takes more energy than you get out of it, I don't think that's the right job for you. But still, some people end up in an SDR role. And I think that if they have to cold call, because some SDRs also book meetings to simply doing email, being very creative, doing it very personalized, that works as well. But if you're asking me specifically about calling, at one point that person will break. It doesn't make sense that you keep doing something every day that just keeps asking energy of you, because at one point you will be depleted, and you will just say, this is enough, I can't take it anymore. So
yeah,
pushing shy people into cold calling, it will never work, I think.
yeah. How do you tackle the no's
How do I tackle the
if you
no's?
get a lot of yeah, if a lot of people, maybe I refer too much to the no's, but I mean no as in the word no.
Yeah.
If people don't want to listen to you, because that is also, to my understanding, a breaking element of cold calling, that a lot of people hang up the phone on you. How do you keep sane in your head?
um
Do you have a ritual that says like, okay, next call, and I'm gonna zen myself out?
Well, what I used to do back in the day, because I'm not really reaching out that much anymore. I have a few accounts that I keep engaging with. But the real SDR job, I have not done in quite some time now. But what I did in the past is I put for myself always on a whiteboard or something, the amount of meetings that I wanted to book for a week. And that's something that motivated me. And I also felt that that's always like that. If I said I want to book 5 meetings this week or 6 meetings, I don't know, and I reached that target, the calls that I was doing then were much less stressful because you achieve the target and everything that comes on top of it is just a nice
Yep.
bonus, a nice plus. So being able to detach, I think that's a quite important thing. It's something that I also said to the SDRs is if you know that you've done the best that you could, that you try to inform somebody, maybe that person didn't want to listen, that's not your fault. If you just did your best trying to inform
Hmm.
them about a better way of working, that's the most that you can do. You cannot control the other person in booking a meeting. You cannot. So
Yeah.
detaching from the outcome, I think, is a mindset that's quite important.
That's an important one. I hear it often that people use the detach from the outcome in their sales process indeed.
Yeah.
Um, to leave the cold calling behind for now, if we look to your journey as a person within sales, personal growth, what drives you to become the best version of yourself within this profession?
Tough questions, bro, but good questions. Well, we met when I was at the lowest point, I think, in my life, because everything kind of fell apart. Neil was also talking about that in a former episode that you recorded with him.
Yep.
And it was a little bit the same story um, in my life. And how should I say this? It was like I was stripped of my identity and I had to rebuild my identity from the ground up. I had lost every type of self-confidence that I had. I trembled, like I had tremors or something. It was even that bad.
Hmm.
Because if you're stripped, and I'm going to come to the answer to your question, but it's, I think, important to have some background. But the thing is, I had the opportunity to rebuild my identity because I was also not happy with the identity that I had before. So it was maybe a little bit even a blessing in disguise that my life started to fall apart because I had that opportunity to rebuild it. And rebuilding that identity, that involved also getting more confidence or regaining some confidence. And I think that the sales profession helped me in that because you need some
Hmm.
confidence in sales and it's not something that you can train or anything, but it's something, it's a kind of profession where you really get good rewards and you get a real high when you do something well, like booking a lot of meetings or closing a big deal or whatever. And I felt
Hmm.
that that helped in rebuilding my self-esteem, in my confidence. And so if you ask me in terms of growth in the sales career, I hope that I can, first of all, get better at what I'm doing, of course. This now involves mainly closing deals. But I also love to share some of my experiences and also, make people see that sales is not what you see in the movies from the 40s, the guy walking around with the suitcase door to door. A lot of people still have this
Yep.
perception. And I think also what you're doing here is wonderful because it shows that sales is not like that anymore, especially B2B SaaS sales. So if I can bring some knowledge, some limited knowledge that I have built up by now to other people, like in terms of cold calling, to SDRs, or just having a chat with people about profession of sales, that's something that I really strive for, aside from doing the classic things like closing deals. Yeah,
Hmm.
making sales a little bit more
Leaving your
fulfilling,
mark.
leaving my mark. I think that's, yeah, that's great recap of what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that we saw each other outside of the Ghent football stadium when you were at Volt for a couple months, and if I had to compare that to when I saw you previously, I have to say that you were you saw in you that you were growing into. I found myself again, and I'm tackling the world. I'm conquering it, and I loved. I followed your journey along the way, and I must say, like, you must be proud of where you are right now, and forget whatever happened back in the days.
Well, proud. It's yeah. I'm pretty proud of it, but the fact that I'm very aware that I still have a very big journey ahead of me also keeps me on my with my feet on the ground, to say it like that. And that's something that
Yeah.
I didn't have before, to be honest. But yeah, that's it. It's still a big journey, but we're going in the right direction, and that's a feeling that I didn't have for a long time
Yeah.
years ago. So that's a
Yeah.
good thing.
But you're still very young as well, huh?
Almost
How
29,
old are you
Ralph.
right now?
29. 1st of March,
Almost
29.
29. Well, if we put it on the scale of life, I think we're still in the first quarter. Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah, that's well said. Hopefully, no, true. Yeah, there's quite some time to do some great things, and yeah, I'm looking very positively at life right now. So
Yeah, that's the thing. How are you currently balancing your work life? Um, because you're always a go-getter, you're always all in. How do you make sure you're not burning the candle on both ends?
to be honest, I'm the worst person ever to ask that question to.
I know that's why I
Yeah,
ask.
it's a great question. I'm not really strong in dividing like personal and work. I find myself doing quite some research always in the evening, reading stuff about sales, new techniques, I don't know, stuff like that. When I go out for a run, I listen to sales podcasts just like yours. So it's so mixed in my life that it's quite hard. What I do enjoy when I really disconnect is classic things. It's like going out for a drink, having a meal with friends, but then I catch myself that at one point I start talking about it again, about what I do. No, that's quite okay. Um, but I'm not the best person to ask that to. I never felt in the last 3 years when rebooted my life, let's call it like that. I never really
Mhm.
felt
Yeah.
that I was burning out. I think it's more like a personal trait of mine or a characteristic not to have that feeling. I don't know why it is. Still, I take some vacation from time to time, but nothing more than that, to be honest. No golden bullets here or silver bullets to be found, I'm afraid.
Blame it on the hustle.
Blame it on the hustle. Love it. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. And do you notice that along your journey you have found that some so there are a lot of things that people say about salespeople and the hustle that comes with it.
True.
Are there things that you would say like I have indeed discovered some of the myths to be true? Like
Mm.
yeah, what should I say? Um, Scrap this. I'm gonna cut this part out. I don't know what I was saying.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But I think a lot of things are flying around in feeds about sales, and all these gurus, they also type the same thing, but repackaged in another way of wording often. And one of my favorites is you're not in the business of sales, you're in the business of helping people. Now that's wonderful. I love it. I would love if my commission also would be on how much people I helped. Did you close the sale? No, but I helped him. Okay, here's 10K. It doesn't work like that. So I think I think there's a few good things flying around. And yes, indeed, the time of hard sales is over. Um, and yes, indeed, you should be focusing on helping people, but we're still in the business of sales. I think there's a lot of people acting today like sales is altruism or something like that, but that's not true because the people that are preaching that you shouldn't sell or that you shouldn't push people for a next step or
Hmm.
whatever, because it should come naturally. Yes, that's ideal world, but those same people I see posting skills and tricks to get that next meeting. So I'm like, that's maybe something that
Yep.
annoys me a bit. It's still sales, and I don't think that we should, be ashamed of being in sales. If you do it the right way,
Yeah.
and if you treat the people that you're engaging with respect, and I don't mean respect only in a personal way, but also respecting a follow-up, respecting their choice, but helping them in the best way that you can. I think that yeah, a lot of things like that floating around, but I still think sales at heart is about selling stuff. But you should always keep the respect.
Yeah, how do you feel about people that say you should spend about 15 minutes on your emails, 5 minutes research, 5 minutes this, 5 minutes that for every prospect? Is it sustainable?
It depends, I think. What do I mean by that? Are we talking about key accounts that you really want to go after this year or this quarter? Then I think yes, mapping the whole thing, mapping the whole account is very important. And then you can indeed spend quite some time on writing an email. If you're more playing on the volume game, let's say I'm going to target every recruitment agency here in Flanders, for example, or in
Yeah.
even larger in the Benelux, um, then I don't think that it should take that much of time. I think that calling there gets some better results. Just try to keep getting in touch with them, and once you get in touch, engage into a conversation, and that way I think it's better. If you're playing the volume game, definitely don't spend too much time on always personalizing the emails. But still a big believer in
No.
calling. I know that a lot of people aren't. I know
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
yeah, I'm a little bit biased, to be honest, but
I think I was about to say if I would put 10 software startups in front of you and I would ask you advise them on growing their market share, that you would say call, call, call.
yes, but in a good way, like we discussed before. Don't pitch,
Yeah,
poke the bear a little bit, you know what I mean? Those are the ways to do it.
yeah.
Just engage into a conversation. I think that's most valuable. Then you can always follow up with some information, of course, through an email, which should be personalized because, yeah, some people have a focus on X, Y, or Z. That should also be reflected, of course, in the follow-up email. But that's a different story, of course,
Yeah,
than already a conversation has happened.
yeah, indeed, indeed. And you said that you're less active on LinkedIn, but if I hear you talking about cold calling and it goes so much against what other people are preaching sometimes, you should be at the other side of the camera. You should be making these short videos about the power of cold calling, your learnings about it.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm really shy of being in front of a camera. I'm not a shy person, but
No.
yeah, people who know me know that I'm definitely not. But I always feel very uncomfortable in front of a camera, to be honest. I know I can beat this, and it's also a matter of just, doing it, but it makes me really uncomfortable. I love chatting with you right now, for example, but it's quite challenging for me, to be honest. Yeah,
Yeah, you should amplify your
I
voice.
should ambassador my voice. That's nicely put, nicely put. But just to say something more about what you were asking about and the LinkedIn stuff. I see a lot of people that are putting a lot of energy in social selling, like really making a brand out of yourself. And to be honest, I do believe that this is getting very, very important. People who establish a brand from themselves, who post a regular fun video, but just do it very structured and always, when people expect something that you also post something. I think this lures a lot of people to your profile and then, helps in generating some really valuable leads. So that's aside from the cold calling. I'm also a very huge believer
Yeah.
in social selling, but I must be honest, like I said before, I should put a little bit more effort into that one. Then, yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, like a couple of weeks ago, like the podcast, we're now at I think 8 episodes, 9 episodes. Um, and it was Michael Humble that said to me, "Nobody knows you. You should start doing this." And I have to say, the video format, I really underestimated the power of it.
Okay.
Um, if 10 startups would line up and ask me what to do, I would say like go all in on the video and
And
like
do you mean recording videos and putting them on LinkedIn, or like working with a video art tool which sends out video to email?
yeah, I'm not using them on emails yet. So I'm literally just doing LinkedIn and the podcast, which already brings quite some traffic. And what it also does is it shows that you're an expert or that you are trying to be one or building that level of expertise. I haven't tried it actually yet on videos. We sometimes reuse them, the videos that we have in videos. So I'm not like for every prospect I'm targeting, I make a new video. Maybe we should. But yeah, I had it on the last episode about video prospecting and audio prospecting that in my opinion, but that was just my opinion, is that it will go away again and that
Okay.
it's something cool right now. Are you using it? It's like we're just doing a poll right now. Are you using it? Or have you done? And what are your results with it?
Um, yeah, I'm a classic cold calling guy, of course, but I didn't do videos, sending out videos through email or something like that, because just like I said, I'm quite shy in front of a camera, and I attempted to do it numerous times, and I know it's never perfect, but I always felt so bad when I took a look at it again that I never dare to send
Yeah.
it out. Even though probably people would say, "I don't really care about that. You know, it's fine. It cannot always be perfect, or it cannot be perfect." But still, it's like I said before, like a shy SDR would take, if that person has to start cold calling, it will put so much energy or take so much energy from that person that
Yeah.
it's just simply not fun anymore. That's the same for me in terms of this video
Yeah.
outreach. So I stopped it after a
And
few attempts.
yeah, and the LinkedIn feature where you can do audio notes, is that one that you then use?
That's something that I do use right now, but not that frequently, to be honest. Because most
Yeah.
of the times, I'm an AE right now. I'm already in
Yeah.
conversation with somebody, and that conversation is easier by phone or by email, even. I do also add people on LinkedIn, but I feel that that's not really the standard go-to place for communication once that already a conversation is happening or when somebody is in
Yep.
cycle. So I do it, but not frequently. Communication is not really
Yeah.
through LinkedIn in my case.
Yeah, so if we would wrap up the poll right here, I would say that the new features have not adopted your way of working or that you have not adopted them in your way.
Yeah, I see it working well for people. I also see some stats about it, and that's great. But indeed, I didn't really adopt those things, to be honest, out of shyness and simply also in terms of the voice messaging, because it's not that
Yeah.
relevant for me anymore in terms of communicating with people that I am in conversation with.
Yeah. So you just said it, you're an AE for the people that normally people understand on the sound of sales what it is.
But my mom is
So you're an
going to
account
listen,
executive right now.
so it's maybe good that we clarify.
All right, let's clarify it. So what would you tell people that are currently starting as an SDR? So they are doing the hustle, they're doing the cold calls, they're doing whatever it takes. They almost feel burned out, and they have the dream to become an account executive because it sounds like heaven. You're talking to people that are already in conversation with.
Yeah.
Like, what would you tell people about your current role? That's one thing, but also how you transitioned. Like, is it the holy grail right now? Are you in the sweet spot of like, yeah, I left the cold calling behind, and now I'm in Hawaii on my
Oh God, no.
sofa bed.
Sales is hard, and everybody in sales knows this. And yes, there are a few naturals to which it just comes naturally, like those pro tennis players. You always have people who have an extraordinary talent, but for most people, I do quite well. But it's hard. Sales is not an easy profession, and that's something that they should know. And also, if you're a good AE, I don't think that you can leave behind the prospecting aspect. So, okay, it's not in terms of doing that many calls a week, also because you don't really have targets on those things. But you will always in sales keep prospecting, I believe. Also, if you're an AE. So that's a
Yeah.
myth that I would really debunk towards SDRs, that they shouldn't do any more cold calling. Yes, it's a lot less, of course, because it's not the core of the job anymore to book meetings. But having control over your pipeline also means that if you see that a gap is forming, that you do something yourself to fill that gap and to make sure that you get your pipeline back on the rails. So that's maybe something that I would
Yep.
really debunk.
Yeah. And in the last episode, I was talking with Will about his team, his account executives. They need to do 1 day of prospecting a month or a week. I don't remember.
A week
Is that
was.
something that you do as well? Do you do it structured?
I don't do it one full day, but let's say that I put in, if the agenda allows it, because some weeks are, just full of meetings, then it's a little bit more
Yeah.
difficult. But if I find some free time, I do schedule some blocks in my agenda. Yes, that's
Hmm.
maybe 4 hours of prospecting a week. It won't be any more because also I'm now at the point where I don't really need more to add to my pipeline. I'm really
Yep.
comfortable with it. I also want to give the necessary attention to the accounts that are now in cycle with me. Um,
Yep.
but if I would see once again that things would slightly start to go off the rails or a gap would be forming, I would put more inputs in or more effort into the
Hmm.
outbound for sure. Always
Yeah.
having a.
Are you currently working with SDRs as well? So that are helping you with
Yes,
the meeting setting?
yes. So
What do you think is a good ratio SDR account executive?
um, hmm, that's a tough one, Bram, because uh, it involves so many things. For example, if you're having a product for which there are quite some inbound demos, then I would say that the
Hmm.
ratio SDR per AE can be a little bit lower because things are already coming in, so they don't need to book as much. Um,
Yep.
on the other hand, it's always good, to have um, as much conversations as possible. Then you can easily take the control of choosing who you qualify in or out. So there's so many different parameters in that regard that I really can't say. Um, but I don't think in general that every AE should need one SDR. That's maybe, yeah, I don't think so, to be honest.
Hmm.
I think that's a little bit overkill. But again, it depends on how much your product is in demand, how strong the SDR
Yep.
is. Is it the SDR that's still ramping up? Those people won't book as much meetings, so it's a really tough one. But yeah,
Undecided for now.
I think so. Yeah.
And about your transition, to come back to the
Yeah.
original question. So, how did you, like, what was your journey like? If somebody is listening right now, is currently in SDR,
Yeah.
like, what was their journey like? How long did it take you to make that transition? And
Mhm.
like, what were your results even? Like, do you feel, what should you accomplish in order that you qualify to step up in the ladder?
Okay. I can only tell you about my journey, of course. The thing is,
Of course, that's why we're here.
yeah, my journey in real sales started at Silverfin. So it's quite a short story or a short
Yeah.
journey for me. I know that some people stay as they are for sometimes a few years even before transitioning to an AE role. Sometimes it's also their choice to stay as they are, of course. Some people are really good at it, make some good money with it. So it's absolutely no problem at all to stay an SDR, I believe. But in my case, I was an SDR for like 8 months, but really full time SDR. And then I was promoted to being team lead of a team of about 8 or 9 SDRs. which involved some more managerial
Okay.
tasks. You know how these things go. The time to really prospect and stuff was getting less and less. And then, yeah, I was offered actually um, by the company itself the AE role. I never asked for it because I was perfectly fine and very happy working in an SDR role, especially working together with the team. So I
Yeah.
was very happy. I got a lot of energy out of it. But they asked me, would you consider being an AE? And I said, well, I thought about it quite a long time, but I took that leap because it was also something different. You know, by then I had been doing the SDR stuff for like in total 1.5 years, maybe, I'm not quite sure. So I was feeling like maybe it's just time for a next challenge, and that's the reason why I took the leap to being an AE. Um, I think performing in the SDR role is very important before being able to become an AE. I think if you're not that strong in showing results in an SDR role, that you won't really get the opportunity that easily to transition to a. Not that it really has something to do with each other, but still there's a perception of, all right, if you're a high performer, you can also be promoted to AE a little bit easier than if you're low or lower performer. I think it's a standard thing. But yeah, if
Yeah, it's true.
there's one reason I think a lot of companies look at to promote somebody to AE or not, I think it's performance. I'm not saying they should or should not, but it's happening. That's something that you see all around.
Yeah, the thing is, you became the team lead first after only 8 months. That's crazy short. Uh, like, what did that do for you? Like the impact? Because after 8 months, you're performing very well, and then they ask you like, do you want to become the team lead? You're like 28 at the time, maybe
Let's put it seven, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
27, 28.
Mhm.
So you're quite a young person. Like, how did that feel?
Well, it's a nice thing that people from such a company put the trust in you to be a team lead, and that's not bad for the ego, if I may say. It sounds maybe a little bit weird, but I mean it in a good way. You know, it gives some pride, but it's also a little bit daunting because managing a
Yeah,
team of 8 people is not easy. There are a lot of questions, a lot of uncertainties. So you're like in the hooray moment, and then it's like, okay, but how the fuck am I going to do this
stress.
now? Sorry, I don't know if swearing is allowed on the podcast. My apologies.
Yeah, it's all right.
You can beep it out or something. But yeah, to be honest, it's two feelings. First, yeah, a sense of pride because it's a big responsibility. Of course, you need to keep a team going. There are these targets and stuff. Um, on the other hand, it's a little bit daunting because yeah, it's a whole new challenge. Like, even though you were an SDR before and you know some how it goes to be an SDR, moving up to
Yeah.
team lead, it's a whole different story, to be honest.
Yeah, people are suddenly looking at you like you're now the one that is supposed to know everything
Yeah,
for this team.
yeah, true.
And you're 27 years old and you're eight months into this job.
I know, but I think that a lot of people find the answers themselves if you just listen well enough and ask them enough questions. You don't need to know the answers, but often people know something from themselves or they can come up with a specific idea to solve a particular problem. And the first thing that they will do, a lot of people, not all of them, of course, is going to the boss, the manager, team leads, or whoever's appointed for such a role. They will
Yeah.
ask, "How should I solve this?" But what I
Yeah.
did more, because I didn't know the answer always, sometimes I could give a straight answer, but I even refused and I said, how would you solve this? Did you think about some problem or some ideas how to solve this? And then
Yeah.
again, a conversation opened, and it's really picking their brain to help them find their own solution. So I think being in a team lead position aside from target stuff and making sure that everything is rolling operationally, I think coaching aspects is quite important.
Think in the 8 months short time that you were there, that you made it your only goal
Hmm.
of really understanding what the SDR job that you're supposed to do looks like.
Hmm.
And then I can see the transition in that. I see it. If I look back, I didn't work with you back then,
Hmm.
but if I look back to when I worked with you, I could easily understand why somebody would give you that role. Would you say that I'm correct in that? That is also potentially part of why you were striving in that?
Maybe you're right, and thanks for the compliment, by the way. It's really nice to hear. Maybe yes, but I'm also a very structured person. And I think that they also saw that quite quickly. Like my agenda is always structured now when I'm, working on a specific account. It's all with tasks and they're all being followed up quite strictly because I need that for me to keep, to keep the overview over everything. And I
Yeah.
think that also helped me put myself on the radar, I think, for that next step
Yeah.
towards team lead. And about being put on the radar, if there's also something that I have learned or a lot of people should be conscious about, is that you should also put yourself on the radar of the people that can help you move forward. Because some people are doing a great job, but you should also say, all right, this is a job that I did. Get some feedback on that because then people will start to see, all right, that person has some great ideas and stuff. Sometimes people do such great
Yep.
things and they have a feeling like, why is that next step not coming? Dare to ask for it. If you're doing great stuff, show it to people, ask feedback, ask advice, and put yourself on
True.
the radar. That's maybe just something that I want to draw in because I think it's quite important for moving your career ahead that you put
Yeah,
yourself on the
indeed.
radar of the people that you need to.
Yeah. So yeah, for the SDRs listening, this is your way to SDR trainer or SDR team lead and account executives.
Yeah, true, true. Put yourself on the radar.
There's some good insights. I said in the beginning that Yannick would sell me a car. I have to ask, what would you do if it wasn't for this job? Like what other, like sometimes I think like if I wouldn't be a startup founder, I
Yeah.
would love to do this job. What do you see yourself doing actually? I think you would be a great teacher actually.
I'm not that patient, to be honest. I'm
Okay.
patient, but just, up till a certain level. So I don't think I would be that great of a teacher in the sense that you really have to, kids are not easy to motivate, or young people are not always that easy to motivate to do something that they actually don't like to learn about. So not sure about
Yeah,
that, but
true.
something else. I would say I loved being a recruiter, but that's also because the sales aspect was in there, I think. So that's maybe not a good alternative. I think I would love to have been a lawyer.
I would see that in you as well.
You're not the only one who says
And he
that.
takes off his glasses like, and now I'm gonna look like a
It's
lawyer.
it's on, off. Yeah. Uh, I think I would like to do that because I like to go in depth, and also when I'm going through terms and conditions and stuff, I quite enjoy that actually. I love again the punctuality of things, and that's something that you can
Yeah.
find back in the law industry, to call it like that.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that as well. It's also
What would
one
be
of the
yours
things that I
then?
sometimes think of.
It's
Yeah, for me, it would be, I think it would be a doctor,
doctor.
but on the
Okay,
intensive care or the urgency stuff.
it's quite
Because it triggers me that it's a science, so you work within your means, but you also have the freedom
hmm.
to decide, like I'm gonna make this call or I'm gonna do this or that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, cool.
might be a little bit weird, but anyway.
No, 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 not at all. It's just, very far away from what you're doing now,
That's true.
but why not yet? You never know.
Yeah, indeed. You never know. Like, I do know that I probably want to re-educate myself to become a doctor, but
sometimes I'm quite surprised by, the turns that people take in their professional lives. And being a doctor, that's maybe a little bit too long because you have to study for like, yeah, 7, 8 years or
10 years,
10
probably
years.
10
I have
years.
no idea. That's maybe a little bit of a stretch. But just like you said before, Bram, we're still at, the first part of our life. So why not?
Indeed.
But
That's
I'm still
true.
very happy in
That's
sales.
true.
So I will keep doing this for at least the foreseeable future. I think it's a really exciting thing to be active in, and I keep preaching it to everybody, and I will keep doing that.
Yeah, the market is really changing, I have to say. The amount of tools that people can now use in sales, like I don't like to do sales. I'm gonna put it
Okay.
out there,
Okay.
but I use my own tool and it makes it easy. But I see that it's really changing. People that are more and more choosing to be in sales as well. Um, Back in the days, it was something, and yeah,
You
not a
rolled
lot of
into.
people choose like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's something that comes to you.
Yeah.
And right now, when I meet interns, for example, from the university, they're
Hmm.
like, yeah, I want to do sales.
Hmm.
It's like conscious decision. Um, and I think we will see a lot of changes in the coming years as well to what the profession of salespeople will look like.
How do you see that
How do you
evolving
think
then?
it? Yeah, it's. I was about to ask that question to you, but
Sorry,
you were.
I beat you to the punch.
But yeah, what I think is, for example, with the metaverse goggles, that can be something. I think there will be more and more
Mm,
technology,
mm, mm.
but also I believe it will become more and more to the personal level. Um, People sometimes say like, yeah, cold emails, it's gonna die, but I think you will start doing it like you do cold calling. What you say, like if you play it personal or you just want to have a genuine conversation with someone,
Hmm. Hmm.
people take the call and you can
Yeah.
book a meeting. I think we will see the same thing going, for example, with emails. It's already happening a little bit, and people are now pulling the card of you need to spend 15 minutes on personalizing, and otherwise people won't read your email. I think if you just ask people like, you look like an interesting person, there could be a synergy right here.
Yeah.
Why don't we just have a genuine call?
Yeah.
I think it's working for me to apply that sort of structure.
Hmm.
It can be biased, but I don't know. What do you think? What are you seeing that is happening that you think this will probably evolve and will be standard in the future?
Another great question. I think that the salesperson will enter the cycle later and later and later. What do I mean? By now, the prospect has, in most of the cases, especially when it's an inbound one, of course, that person has done the research,
Educated.
has done, already a short list, and or you're on the short list or you're not, but preferably, of course, you are. And that person is already so far in the decision-making process that you as a salesperson actually enter at a very late stage already. And I
Yeah.
think with the technology, with the fact that you can put on some goggles and that you can look at yourself in the mirror with clothes virtually already on you, to give a very simple
Yeah.
example maybe, that will push the role of the salesperson even further down the cycle, I think. And I think that's something that will have a big impact on the industry, and it will also make the job of the salesperson harder because you will have to be very quick because
Yeah.
there will also be a lot of other people they will be talking to, more even than today. Um, and will have to be very knowledgeable because the prospect will challenge people more and more and more. And I think that it will get harder for account
Yeah.
executives, for example, salespeople. It's not going to get easier.
Yeah, and also for juniors, like your ramp up time right now, even you most of the times you start as an SDR and you have some ramp up, but you can basically trial and error. But if somebody educated comes towards you and he already knows this is what your competitors are doing, and you need to talk yourself out of that,
That's a difficult one.
then yeah, indeed, indeed.
Yeah,
Let's hope. Yeah, let's hope some more training courses on that come so you can ramp up people even faster into negotiation skills.
Yeah, true. I think it all starts with good onboarding in either role that you would be starting in, having a very good
Hmm.
onboarding plan, knowing what, based on past experiences, things that you should really keep an eye for. For example, we know that our prospects that come to us are very knowledgeable. They already have done quite a lot of research. Then I think that one of the first things that you should do during the onboarding is having, sessions where you discuss this is what the competitors do, this is how you can arm
Yeah.
yourself, this is how we position ourselves. But in most cases, it comes down to having a good onboarding structure and plan. Um,
Hmm.
it's not about about the speed in ramping somebody up, but I think in the quality. And I think that a lot of companies are often missing out on really getting somebody onboarded in a strong way. And I think it goes a little bit together. If you're onboarding somebody in a very structured way, in a good way with enough mentoring, that they will also get ramped up more quickly in the process. So I think you
That's
know
true.
it goes a little bit together, hand in hand.
Yeah. Work to be done.
Work to be done. True.
So, to ramp up, you have listened already to the Sound of Sales podcast, so you know what the last question is. Did you prep it?
No.
Okay, that's good. If I give you a billboard, what would you put on it and why?
When I listen to your podcast, I'm always running, and your podcast is always around 45 minutes to 55 minutes, and I think that I missed that last question. What would I put on a billboard? Um, Good question. Well, definitely not my face because I'm shy of the camera. So, uh, uh, I would maybe put something that I see. Ross Pomeranz? Ross Pomeranz is
Mhm.
some kind of very funny guy who's also in sales, and his LinkedIn page is tagged with sadness. Sales are dope. Never ever stop selling. That's maybe something that I would put on the billboard.
Okay.
Because
So
sales
you would
are sales
actually.
are dope.
That's true. That's true. Okay. Is there a why, or did you just steal the quote?
Yeah, I just told the quote, but I think it also recaps quite well what we talked about, because I think that you already feel that I really enjoy doing sales and I can talk about it, for hours on end.
Hmm.
So sales are dope, and also never ever stop selling, because selling is something of the most basic things that we as a human being do. We sell our opinions, we try to convince people.
Yep.
And I think selling is not only for people in the selling business, but anybody who wants to be professional in or successful in their lives. I think having some basic selling skills, to call it like that, is important for everybody to have in the skill set.
Yeah.
So that's
That's
maybe
true.
a little bit more the philosophical undertone of the quote that I just mentioned. But yeah,
I take it. I take it.
there you go.
Cool. Yannick, I would like to thank you for this episode. We tackled a lot of questions, and I was thinking like, oh, I'm jumping back again, and so we were jumping a lot. Sorry for the audience if we're jumping too much, but I enjoyed it. I think it will help junior SDR people, especially that are growing into their role, how they can move up the ladder, and yeah, grow into what they're
I
doing.
hope so. I
So
hope so.
thank you, Yannick, for your time and for joining me on this episode.
Thank you for having me.